on, everybody? Welcome back to the ILLMented Reviews. I am your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, episode 7 here on the ILLMented Reviews, and today we're going to take it back to 1966 with a classic Shaw Brothers film, released by Arrow Video, originally released by 88 Films, actually, on the Shaw Brothers line, but re-released by Arrow Video, and it is a film called Come Drink With Me, starring Shang Pei or Pei Chang. I have no idea which way to say her name because I've seen it written so many different ways. Most of the time it's written Pei Chang, but on the cover here it's written Shang Pei. I have no idea. It's so bizarre. I've never encountered a name that was always backwards, and I don't know. Someone explain that to me because I think it's Pei Chang. I think that's what her name is, but I digress. All right, so 1966's Come Drink With Me. Now this film was kind of infamous because it's kind of the film that really popularized wuxia films. Now, if you're not familiar with what a wuxia film is in Hong Kong cinema and Chinese cinema, it's basically a film. It's a martial arts film that focuses on sword fighting, but our protagonists, our main characters, usually have like superhuman strengths and have the abilities to do like superhuman things, like kind of fly through the air and kind of things like that. I know the Western world was kind of familiarized with it, or was made popular in the Western world when Pei Chang starred in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, actually, also, because that's of a wushu film too. The characters can fly through the air and stuff like that. So it'll kind of give you a little bit of context to what you're getting yourself into with these films. Legendary Weapons of China, like same type of thing. I don't know if I mentioned that in that film, but which is a very cool concept about the 18 deadly weapons and stuff. Very cool. But yeah, Come Drink With Me from 1966. The synopsis on this one, very simple storyline. Basically what happens at the beginning of the film, there's this like outlaw group of ragtag bandits. They go and kidnap the governor's son in order to exchange him or trade for their leader that has been incarcerated by this government. So the governor basically sends his daughter, played by Pei Chang, dressed in disguise as a male, to go and infiltrate this outlaw crew and basically get her brother back. So, and of course, along the way, she encounters like this drunken master guy and stuff. And then that kind of sets off like a side plot. I wouldn't even say a subplot. It's more of like a side plot that happens. And it's a very interesting construction to the film because it kind of takes over the lead plot in the film and then kind of goes back to it and stuff. But anyways, that is the general premise of the film. So, my thoughts on Come Drink With Me. Now, I've seen this movie before. I really enjoy it. Now, this movie right here, like I said, is infamous because it's kind of the film that popularized the wuxia type films. Now, they had been making these films since like the 1920s, but this one really, I think, was a huge box office success, and it kind of just made the genre of films very, very popular, but then kind of faded out very quickly by the early 70s because the Kung Fu film was made super popular by Bruce Lee. And these films just kind of got put on the back burner until they were really resurrected with Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon in the Western world. Which is kind of interesting. It's starring, Pei Chang, who wasn't actually a martial artist, which I thought was very interesting. I watched in the special features here. She was actually a dancer that was basically trained, on the set to use these weapons and do the choreographing. And I thought that was really interesting because it kind of makes sense. As a dancer, you choreograph your moves, and then, if you kind of make that switch into being a martial artist, it's kind of the same thing a little bit. So I thought that was very interesting, and she does a very good job. Now, my thoughts on the movie. Now, for 1966, this is more of kind of, the fighting style in this film is a little bit more laid back. It's not as crazy as some of the other Shaw Brothers films, some of the other wuxia films, especially some of the later ones that end up getting very, very gory and stuff like that. This one does have blood. It doesn't have much gore and stuff, but it's a very beautiful film, and I love the locations they shot this film. Directed by King Hu, I think, directed this one. He's also very infamous. He's one of the most known Chinese directors or Hong Kong directors out there. But like the cinematography in this is really fantastic, man. They shot this like in the mountain ranges on flat parts, and it's just got such a beautiful backdrop. Cinematography is outstanding. The sound design in the film is really cool too. The music is fantastic. It's very much kind of like you're watching a play. The music is very much like a play, which is very common with these wushu films because that's kind of where they originated from, was the stage and stuff, and from the literature that was brought to the stages and then brought into movies and stuff. So they kind of incorporate all those ideas into these type of films, which is very cool. But yeah, like I said, the fight scenes in this one are a little bit more laid back. It does have a lot of plot and has a lot of things that are happening and stuff, even though the narrative isn't that complicated. I really do like when she gets injured, she kind of gets saved by this drunken beggar, and it starts out this kind of side plot in the film with the drunken beggar has like a relationship with one of the members of this other outlaw clan and stuff, and then they do battle and shit like that, and it's pretty cool because then it gets into more of the kind of like the supernatural-esque part of wushu films, with the abilities and things like that, which is really cool. But yeah, you know, a really fantastic film. I really like Pee Chang, man. She does a great job in this. She just seems so elegant in the fighting style. Really good stuff. And again, like I said, it's sword fighting, it's not kung fu, so it all deals with the weapons and stuff. As much as I love kung fu films, I love the swordsman films, man. I love weapon films. I think they're so cool. I love how they manipulate the weapons, how they maneuver with weapons and stuff like that. It's really fantastic stuff. So, but yeah, definitely one that you gotta see. It's a classic in the genre of films. But like I said, you know, the fighting, you're not going to see the craziest things. I've seen other wushu films that have so much outrageous kind of supernatural things happening. People flying through the air, so much really craziness and stuff. This one's a little bit more laid back. It almost seems like it popularized it, and it kind of started here, and then it just kind of elevated its stuff throughout the next few years. Like I said, the genre wasn't around that long after it became popular because it had been around forever, but very strange. There's some really interesting ones that come after this though, but Come Drink With Me, man. Awesome film. Rating this one 8.5 out of 10. Very, very beautiful film. There's a really great scene in this film involving, it's like a restaurant scene. It's kind of like her first fight scene against these outlaws and stuff. And the way it's shot, the cinematography is fantastic. The sound design is fantastic in the film also. But then the way they choreograph the fight scenes, it's just really, really good stuff. There's nothing cooler than seeing a female lead go against all these males and kick some ass. And actually the other interesting thing about this movie too is towards the end when, the big crews do battles, you would think that this huge male army would roll in to go and fight these big outlaws and stuff. No, it's a whole army of female swordsmen. It's so cool to see. You never really see that in these type of films. And I thought that was very, very unique in itself. So, yeah, great stuff here. The one thing about these Chinese, or Hong Kong films, Chinese, I think they do in Chinese films too, is they have females play males a lot in these type of movies, which is fine because they're usually kind of in disguise, and she's supposed to be in disguise at the beginning of this film, right? She's sent as a male, and she goes and fights these, and they keep referring to her as a guy and a punk and all that type of stuff, but she's really not in disguise. It's like she's just in her normal wardrobe and stuff like that, but when the hair comes down, oh, she's a female. I could never understand it in these films, maybe because I live in the West. I don't know, it's like there's a disconnect there, but I just don't understand how she's supposed to look like a guy because she's clearly a woman. She's a very, very beautiful woman with her hair up. Like, it's something I've always been super confused about Hong Kong cinema, and especially in Shaw Brothers films. There's lots of movies where there's females that are playing male leads. And, sometimes you kind of question it. You're like, okay. But in this case, not at all. Not at all. Like, she's clearly a chick. It's really bizarre to me. Yeah, otherwise, I've seen it many, many times in Hong Kong cinema, but it's still very confusing to me. Kind of like Chang PP or PP Chang's name. It's kind of backwards. It's very strange. But I highly recommend this movie if you've never seen it before. I really enjoy it, man. It's so beautiful. The transfer on this is fantastic. There's a really cool documentary on here. It's called Cinema Hong Kong Sword Fighting, a documentary on the history, and it's actually this. It says it's the second part of a 3-parter, so I'm assuming that the other parts are on other Shaw Brothers releases from Arrow Video. I'm assuming that's what it is. But anyways, I did watch it. It was about 50 minutes long, and it kind of indulged me a little bit more about wushu films and things like that. I knew what the wushu genre was. It was kind of cool to more elaborate on the history of it and, going back to like the 20s and the silent era and how they've been making these movies up until this point and this was kind of one of the big ones that like popularized that genre, and then it just kind of fell off a couple years later due to Kung Fu films. But it's cool to see interviews with John Woo, and P.P. Chang actually is being interviewed. Actually spoke English in the interviews too, which I thought was quite interesting. You had Sammo Hung, who they talked to him, David Chang, the classic director, Gordon Liu, all these famous people from the Shaw Brothers films and stuff. So very informative, even though it's very short. I'd like to see the whole thing, the whole 3-parters and stuff. There's commentaries on here. There's interviews. It's just packed full of special features and stuff. All that good stuff. So come drink with me, man. Check it out. Another great classic Shaw Brothers film that is very enjoyable. So anyways, that is going to do it for this review, guys, for the ILLMented Reviews Part 7. Or episode 7. I don't know why you say part. Episode 7. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Stay tuned for more random horror reviews and more ILLMented reviews and other content. Check you guys later. And as usual, deuces!